Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It's April the 26th, and we're looking at the first book of Kings and chapter 6. Here we have the record of Solomon building the temple of the Lord. It said it came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, and in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. Verse 7, and the house, when it was in building, was built with stone made ready before it was brought thither, so that there was neither hammer or axe or any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building. This was prefabricated. This was put together in such a way that when it came together in the actual site of where the temple was, it was put together in silence. Such is the reverence that the men had for the Lord. And the work of the Lord came, and the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, concerning this house which thou art in building, if thou wilt walk in my statutes and execute my judgments and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then I will perform my word with thee, which I spake unto David thy father, and I will dwell amongst the children of Israel, and will not forsake the people of Israel. Now notice that word if. It's if thou wilt walk in my statutes and execute my judgments and keep all my commandments, then I will perform my word unto thee. You see, in the old covenant, Israel was brought into this amazing covenant with God, the covenant of Moses, and they had this responsibility, the responsibility to walk before the Lord in all his statutes and judgments and commandments, and to perform all the word of the Lord. And if they did that, then he would dwell among them, and he will not forsake the children of Israel. So Solomon overlaid the house with pure gold, and the whole house was overlaid with gold, and the floor was made of gold inside and out. 7 years it took to build it, and Solomon built other projects. He built a house for himself which took 13 years to build. In fact, at the beginning of chapter 7 it says, but Solomon was building his own house 13 years. So there's a contrast there. He spent more time upon his own house than he did upon the house of the Lord, which is significant. He also built a house for Pharaoh's daughter, who he had taken to wife. He also built a porch for the temple with 2 huge pillars. One was called Jachin, and the other was called Boaz. Then he then began to furnish the temple. He made a molten sea, which was a huge bath. Okay. He also made 10 bases of brass. Gives all the details. He made 10 lavers of brass. The detail that goes into the descriptions of all of the furnishings is stunning. And in the place of Jordan in the plain of Jordan did the king cast them. So these were all made of cast brass, and in the clay ground between Succoth and Zarthan. And Solomon left all the vessels unweighed. You know, there was so much brass that nobody knows. No one ever knew how much brass was used in the construction of these items of furniture. And the vessels that pertain to the house of the Lord were made of gold. The table was made of gold, in which there was the showbread. The candlesticks were made of gold, 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left. before the oracle with the flowers and the lamps and the tongues of gold, and the bowls and the snuffers and the basins and the spews and so on. It's absolutely fantastic what they did, what Solomon arranged in the building for the temple. And eventually they brought in the Ark of God, which was in the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the vessels that were in the tabernacle, which the priests and the Levites brought in. And there was nothing in the ark save the 2 tablets of stone, which Moses had put in there at Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. It came to pass when the priests were come out of the holy place that the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. This is an amazing, amazing thing. And then Solomon spoke to the Lord, I have surely built unto thee a house to dwell in, and a place for thee to abide in forever. And that's a very hopeful statement, that he built it so the Lord might stay there forever. And then the king turned around and he blessed the people, and he described their deliverance from Egypt. And then from verse 23 onward we have the prayer of Solomon. And in this prayer it's a very good description. It takes about 5 minutes to read it all. It's a very good description of how Israel stands before their covenant God in the old covenant. And you'll notice that the word if is constant. You see, they were brought into this covenant, but they could easily forsake the Lord and break it. So that he says, if any man trespass against his neighbour, and so on, then he is to come before the Lord and make offering, and then the Lord will hear in heaven. Okay? And he will judge his servants and condemn the wicked, to bring his way upon his head, and justify the righteous, to give him according to his righteousness. You see, so this is absolutely, totally different to Christian theology. The theology of the Old Covenant is vastly different to Christian theology. And then he says, and when the heaven is shut up and there's no rain, because they have sinned against thee, if they pray towards this place and confess thy name and turn from their sin, when thou afflictest them, then thou wilt hear in heaven and forgive the sin of thy servants and of thy people Israel. So you see, the thing is, God held Israel accountable to him, to the judgments and to the statutes and to the commandments. And if they forsook the Lord, then the Lord stopped the rain in the heaven from falling down upon them. But this was a means of God to bring Israel to their knees. And he also says, if there is a famine in the land, or if there is a pestilence, or a blasting, or a mildew, or a locust, or if there's a caterpillar, or if the enemy besiege them in the land, you see, or whatsoever sickness there shall be. You see, if Israel was faithful to the Lord their God, they would never get sick, and they would never have any enemies, and they'd never have any pestilence, they'd never have any famine, they would always have the rain. See, so and he describes how Israel is to come before the Lord their God and to confess their sin, and the Lord would heal them and heal the land. Verse 44, if thy people go out to battle against their enemy, whithersoever thou shalt send them, and shall pray unto the Lord their God towards the city which thou hast chosen, and towards the house that I have built for thy name, then hear thou in heaven their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. You see, and this is a full description of how Israel is to maintain their covenant relationship. You see, the thing that we need to understand is they didn't offer the sacrifices to come into the covenant. No, they were already in the covenant. The sacrifices were made if they sinned against the Lord and needed to repent and return to the Lord their God. And then, of course, in the next little passage from verse 56, he says, "Blessed be the Lord that has given rest unto the people of Israel according to all that he has promised," and so on. "The Lord our God be with us as he was with our fathers." And then in verse 60 he says a wonderful phrase, and this is my password for today. He says, "Let your heart therefore be perfect with the Lord your God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments as at this day." Now, when we go to the book of Hebrews, one of the key words in the book of Hebrews is the word perfect. You see, he's speaking to the same people. These are the Hebrews of the New Testament times. And right through the book of Hebrews, the Lord, through the writer, is saying that they are to be perfect before the Lord. But in this verse, he gives us the definition of what perfect is. To be perfect is to walk in his statutes and keep his commandments. That's what being perfect is. And the king and all with him offered sacrifices before the Lord. Solomon offered a sacrifice of peace offerings, which was 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. This is quite a phenomenal thing. It's something which just completely blows our minds. So what a wonderful passage this is, and what a wonderful temple Solomon built, and what a wonderful relationship that Israel had. They had privileges, but they had duties and responsibilities that were far in excess of all the Gentile nations all around them, and they were instructed before the Lord to have a heart that is perfect with the Lord their God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments as at this day. What a passage. Well, God bless you. Great to speak to you, and look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.